Now you kind of look at them like scoundrels. What won't you do for that damn career? Listen, this is a disgusting business. That's all I'm going to say. This business is so disgusting that I can't. I think that Jay-Z and Beyonce are master manipulators of the media. What is that? Is that a baby bump? I don't know. What the couple found most difficult to deal with, says another source, was the fact that some of the rumors were being perpetuated by people they considered friends, like talk show host Wendy Williams. Well, first of all, I've never partied with them. I've never been to their house. I don't swim in their pool. Like, we're not friends. The stunt left Beyonce angered beyond belief. That means she watches. Fortunately, one of the TVs in our kitchen has closed captioning, so I'll be able to understand what she says. She, you know, Beyonce can't talk. You all, Beyonce sounds like she's got a 5th grade education. She can't talk. The baby bump squashed, bent, and crumpled.
So karma came knocking today, and they're looking for Kevin Hunter, aka Kelvin Hunter, Wendy Williams' ex-husband, because now in court documents he's claiming that he's broke and that his home is about to go into foreclosure because Wendy Williams has not paid him the money that he's owed for alimony and severance after he was fired from the Wendy Williams.
Wait a minute. Now Kevin Hunter is trying to work his way back into Wendy Williams' good graces by allegedly revealing plans tied to Beyonce wanting Wendy silenced. Supposedly, if anyone thought Diddy was the only one with issues against Wendy, then apparently that wasn't the full picture. There have already been long-standing rumors that certain powerful industry figures intentionally orchestrated the guardianship Wendy has been under for the past 4 years. But the last name people expected to hear connected to any of this was Beyonce. And even more shocking, no one imagined Kevin Hunter, the same man who publicly embarrassed Wendy, had a child outside their marriage and then tried to collect thousands in alimony while she was struggling for her health and freedom, would suddenly be positioning himself as her defender against Beyonce. Girl, grab a seat, because this gets heavy. As most people know by now, Wendy has been through absolute chaos over the last few years after being placed under a guardianship initiated by Wells Fargo. She was labeled unstable and deemed incapable of managing her own finances. The judge ultimately sided with the bank, and from that moment on, Wendy's life spiraled. She lost access to her money, lost her television show, was cut off from her family, and was confined to a mental health facility where, according to her camp, she was heavily medicated multiple times a day. Wendy has stated that her guardian failed to properly protect her. What makes it even more disturbing is that Wendy actively tried to fight her way out of the guardianship by undergoing multiple independent medical evaluations. All of them reportedly showed she was not as impaired as Sabrina Morrissey and Wells Fargo claimed. Still, the court refused to reconsider until recently. A few months ago, TMZ reported that Wendy was close to regaining her freedom after a new evaluation by a leading neurologist in New York concluded she was mentally competent. Wendy had been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, a condition that typically worsens over time. Yet, since becoming sober roughly 3 years ago, Wendy has reportedly shown significant neurological improvement. According to the report, Wendy's legal team plans to file new court documents requesting a hearing to officially end the guardianship. If the judge refuses, high-profile attorney Joe Tacopina is expected to push for a jury trial and ask jurors to free Wendy outright. Now, since news broke that Wendy might finally regain control of her life, several people who allegedly wronged her in the past have started creeping back around, hoping to benefit financially. And that reportedly includes her ex-husband Kevin Hunter. Word is that he's been privately telling people he fears for Wendy's safety and believes someone could be coming after her. Where exactly Kevin is getting this information from isn't clear. But many believe he's leaning into existing rumors involving Beyonce and Wendy as a way to convince Wendy he's on her side, when in reality, they think he's attempting to manipulate his way back into her life. For context on the current Wendy-Beyonce controversy, it reportedly began weeks ago when online investigators started revisiting Beyonce's past following the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Since then, scrutiny around her has intensified. Wendy became part of the conversation when people resurfaced clips from 2011 where Wendy allegedly accused Beyonce of using Kathy White, Jay-Z's late alleged mistress, as a surrogate, while publicly presenting what Wendy suggested was a fake baby bump. Kathy White later died under circumstances many online describe as suspicious. According to conspiracy theorists, Beyonce allegedly had Kathy removed after the birth of Blue Ivy Carter, then claimed she carried and delivered the child herself. Wendy appeared to hint at this narrative years ago, which is why some people now believe there could be more to the story than previously thought.
Beyonce's pregnancy is a way of keeping Jay-Z's alleged mistress away. Beyonce is going to use a surrogate so she can maintain her body, but they're going to play it off like it's allegedly, like they gave birth. Remember, I was the first one to say this, and you remember, because wait, I haven't said it yet. Watch. It's going to be an at-home water birth in the master bathroom. There are going to be 3 people there. Beyonce, Jay-Z, and her mother, Miss Tina. Watch.
Do you remember when Beyonce appeared with what some people claimed was a fake baby bump and Wendy Williams publicly called attention to it? Not long after that, Wendy was reportedly placed into a facility and labeled as having a mental health condition. So the real question is, what exactly happened to Wendy Williams?
August 28th, 2011, Beyonce announced her pregnancy at the MTV VMAs. On January 7th, 2012, Blue Ivy was born into this world. In 2016, Beyonce dropped Lemonade.
Where the fuck you go when you get f***ed over by the industry? Nowhere. That's where. You go nowhere. Which is where people like me step in. You right, I go to Diddy parties. To walk mother out! Cause ain't nobody stopping me when I come. You, Sean. Ever. All I do is frustrate your AI. You can't quantify me. You can't even control your wife. You gonna handle a bitch like me. You can't even control that goofy bitch. You should have did a better job. Maybe she wouldn't have had to lose her mind on Kathy. Cause you ain't protecting you. You're protecting her. Wonder why?
What people are basically claiming now is that powerful figures like Beyonce and Jay-Z allegedly played a role in having Wendy Williams placed under that guardianship to keep her from saying anything beyond what she had already revealed. The thinking is that if Wendy were still on television today, whatever is unfolding in Hollywood would be 10 times more explosive. And of course, Kevin Hunter is now trying to slide in and present himself as the hero. Now, I can't say for sure whether any of this is true or not. But when it comes to Kevin, if his goal is really to manipulate Wendy, he might as well give that up, because after everything he put her through, the odds of her ever forgiving him are slimmer than Megan Thee Stallion's waist. If you remember, this man was still provoking Wendy even while she was fighting the guardianship and dealing with the worst health struggles of her life. He sued her, claiming she owed him as many as 23 months of unpaid alimony. Kevin even tried to get the court to overturn their divorce, arguing that Wendy had been smart enough to move most of her money into offshore accounts, so he wouldn't be entitled to half of the fortune she worked for. At the time of the divorce, Wells Fargo estimated that Wendy had roughly $7.3 million to her name. However, Wendy's close friend Regina Shell later submitted an affidavit claiming that by 2022, Wendy actually had around $55 million across her accounts. She reportedly shared documents from Wells Fargo showing a combined balance close to that amount. This information is what Kevin allegedly used in his attempt to get the divorce reversed, but it didn't work. Kevin was reportedly in court telling the judge that he had fallen behind on car payments, insurance bills, and even homeowners association fees, claiming he could no longer afford to live in his neighborhood. He stated that his credit cards were past due and that his life had been severely impacted since the severance payments were suspended. Wendy clearly has a lot happening around her, and if even a fraction of these rumors are true, then tightening her security would be a smart move. She was already placed in a guardianship, and it's safe to assume that whoever benefited from that arrangement isn't thrilled to see her possibly coming out of it. We've seen similar patterns with other celebrities, labeled unstable, later cleared, and then suddenly something tragic happens. As for Kevin, people online aren't buying what he's selling. In the meantime, others have shared their own opinions. One person commented that they found it strange how Wendy spoke about Beyonce and Jay-Z for weeks before fainting on live television on Halloween. They pointed out that Diddy later appeared as a guest, mentioned meeting Wendy's son, and visibly unsettled her, something they believe wasn't a coincidence. Another person noted how Wendy suddenly received a dementia diagnosis and said none of it adds up based on how Hollywood operates. Someone else recalled how Wendy once directly labeled Jay-Z and Beyonce as master manipulators, and shortly afterward, her career and health seemed to collapse. Now, the question is yours to answer. What do you make of Kevin suddenly speaking out in Wendy's defense against Beyonce? And do you believe some people in the industry truly want Wendy silenced for good? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to click over to watch the next messy video.